Hi everybody, my name is Arianna Anderson. I'm a traditional naturopathic doctor here at Anderson Family Chiropractic and Naturopathic Care. Since we can not have our regular free monthly health lectures at our office, which we love, we decided to divide the time out across the 4 Thursdays in April at 7 p.m. to discuss our first 4 health pillars that are foundational to our health and wellness programs, which have helped so many people support their body's natural ability to heal and recover. Those first 4 are digestion, detoxification, immune and drainage, and sugar handling. And so tonight we're going to talk about digestion a little bit more. We're going to try to pull out some practical tips that you guys can use to help improve your digestion and your overall immunity. So number 1 with digestion, it is paramount. There is a reason why it is number 1 in our health pillars. It is the foundation upon which your entire health and wellness rests. I've told a lot of people that it doesn't matter how clean your diet is or how many fancy supplements you put into your body. If you can't break them down properly and get their nutrients into your bloodstream, you can't utilize them. And so think about it. How does your body get, hi Polly, how does your body get replacement parts to build new cells and tissues? Literally, the only way is through digestion. So there are 3 interesting aspects of digestion that I'm going to talk about tonight. There's many that we could talk about. Hi guys, hi Lisa. Many that we could talk about, but tonight we're going to talk about stomach pH. We're going to talk about the microbiome of the gut, and we're going to briefly talk about the appendix, because the appendix never gets any press, but it's actually pretty important. So stomach pH, we typically think, when we talk about stomach acidity, we think of acid reflux. But hydrochloric acid, which is made in the stomach, hi Lawrence, is made in the stomach, is actually a pH of 1. It's super acidic. So the pH of the food in our stomach is actually designed to get down to a pH of about 2, which is super acidic. So there are 3 main reasons for that. The first one is protein digestion. So there is an enzyme called pepsinogen, and it's what is the main thing that will help to break down protein in your stomach. But it doesn't activate until it's at about a pH of like 2 to 3, at least activate well. And so we'll never actually be able to break down protein properly unless the pH of our stomach gets down to a 2 to 3. And so if we don't have proper acidity in our stomach, we won't break the protein down properly, which will lead to undigested protein that breaks down improperly in the gut, leading to lower bowel toxicity in the long run. So it's super important that we have proper acidity in the stomach. The first line of defense actually for immunity is in the stomach too, with proper acidity, which is to kill pathogens and parasites. So the acidity essentially fries them up. We're going to cook some critters. But the problem is that if we don't have that proper acidity, they'll get right through and get right into the intestinal lining. So acidity is necessary for that. The third thing, which actually a lot of people are not it's not commonly known, is that we need to have that food bolus that's in the stomach get down to a pH below 4 to be able to stimulate bile, bicarbonate, and enzymes to be released properly in the intestinal tract. I'm not going to get into the detail of that, but if it isn't properly acidic, that doesn't happen properly. I am going to do a video separately on how proper digestion works from start to finish, contrasting it with dysfunctional digestion, and explain this in more detail. If any of you are interested in that, I can certainly post that out. I'm not going to do that here today, but I will do that separately. So consider, how many people are on antacids and proton pump inhibitors? So an antacid can actually elevate the pH in your stomach up to about 8 to sometimes 12, which is super alkaline. A proton pump inhibitor like Nexiums, those types of things, you can get them over the counter. They essentially turn off the acid in your stomach so you're not producing it. In both of these situations, that person's body will not be able to break down protein properly, will not be able to kill pathogens and parasites in the stomach, and it will not stimulate bile and enzymes and bicarbonate as it should in the intestinal tracts, which will lead to improper digestion down the road. So you can see how important it is that that we get the proper acidity in the stomach. So there are 3 things that you can do that are helpful to make sure that you maintain proper acidity in the stomach. 1, avoid antacids and PPI use, and that includes baking soda. I know a lot of times people will say, well, that's a natural antacid, and that's true, but think about what it's doing. It's essentially just raising the pH of your stomach up to like a 6, it might be neutral, it might be 7, 8, and then we're not going to have those 3 things happening as they should. Other things that you can do to very easily increase gastric juice production in the stomach is 2 tablespoons of raw green pumpkin seeds. They have a lot of zinc. Anybody that's on a program with me at the office, I ask them every time they come in if they're taking pumpkin seeds, because there's just not a lot of zinc in our food. And what's interesting is most people on programs, I test them. We have a test to see if someone is replete with zinc, and almost all of them fail. And most of them are on over-the-counter multivitamins that have zinc in them. So it is better to get your nutrients from food, and raw green pumpkin seeds are the best. Or you could get something like this. This is super seeds. It's pumpkin seeds that are more gourmet, I guess. They're mildly roasted, and they have some sea salt, and they taste really good. So I don't eat chips, so this is kind of like my chip replacement. But then another thing you can do, and this is also easy and cheap, is apple cider vinegar. It has a pH that's real similar to what it should be in the stomach. So most people, anywhere from a 1/4 of a teaspoon up to a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar 15 to 30 minutes before they eat will help to prep that gastric juice in your stomach for proper digestion. Now, when I get questions about GERD, one way to be able to tell if it is true GERD, because honestly, most of the time it's not true GERD. Most of the time, what's happening is people are not producing enough acid in the stomach, which is causing some of these other symptoms that we feel that we might experience, like reflux. One way to tell is to have a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. If you're having reflux, you take a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. If the symptoms start to abate, they start to get a little better, that means you're not making enough gastric juice. If it gets worse, then it's truly a GERD case. But honestly, 9 out of 10 times, it's not truly GERD. It's that people aren't making proper gastric juice production. Okay, so on to our second topic, which is the microbiome. Near and dear to my heart. It's interesting. They did a 2019 study in the Microorganisms Journal that found there are more than 100 trillion microorganisms that are naturally occurring in our gut. That's amazing. So for decades, we've been, hi Lisa. For decades, we've been told that microbes were bad. Think about that. I want everybody to kind of think about that. How long we were told that they were bad. And now we know that the vast majority of them are not only good, they are absolutely essential to our health. And so now we know that beneficial microbes are key regulators of digestion along the gastrointestinal tract. Commensal bacteria play an important role in absorption of nutrients, including how we absorb bile acids, lipids, amino acids, vitamins, and short-chain fatty acids. So they play a huge role in that, how we digest food. They play a crucial role in immune function against pathogenic bacteria by inhibiting their growth. They prevent bacteria invasion by maintaining the integrity of our intestinal wall. And then when there is dysbiosis, which is a disruption of microbial composition by various stresses, it has been implicated already in all peer-reviewed journals, inflammatory bowel disease, colon cancer, obesity, asthma, and other diseases. So it's interesting that for many decades, this was no big deal. We were given antibiotics pretty much anytime, and it said it wasn't a big deal. And now we know differently. And so what are some of the things that we can do to try and support our microbiome going forward? One is carefully consider antibiotic use. According to a study published in the Yansai Medical Journal, which I'll post in the comments later, I have actually several references that I'll put in the comments, so you guys that want to do a deeper dive. But what they found was with one antibiotic treatment, so it's only just one treatment, it took about a month for the microbes to recover. But they saw that with repeated treatments, it took longer. And I've seen this in other studies as well. I mean, somewhere up to like 6 months to a year for that gut to rebuild as it naturally would. So when we think about that, I mean, most people haven't had just one antibiotic treatment. Goodness, when I was a kid, I had multiple ones. And so we have to kind of think about that when we have them, there's going to be this recovery period, and you have to weigh the benefits and the risks. I mean, if it's life or death, pump me up. I'll deal with my gut later. But if it's not life or death, maybe I should wait on that. Look for other natural ways to be able to help support my body's ability to heal and recover, and avoid killing the microbes in our gastrointestinal system. Another thing is eating raw fermented foods. Now, if someone has really severe, like IBS, things like that, they may not want to go this route first. They really should be working with a professional that can help kind of guide them through the steps of how to add these things into their diet. But for the vast majority of people, you could start to eat more raw fermented foods, and they have a variety of them is best. Some people will make them. They're actually super easy to make at home. But I know Costco has a raw fermented sauerkraut, which is delicious. My family eats it. And so, that also apple cider vinegar. Sometimes people brew kombucha. You gotta be a little careful with kombucha. Sometimes it tends to be, you don't want it to be too sweet. You actually do kind of want it to be a little more on the sour side. You don't want to have too much sugar that you're bringing in. But any of those types of things that you start to bring in, and variety is best. Having a variety of them will help develop the microbiome of your gut. A lot of people ask me about yogurt. I think yogurt's okay. My main issue with it is most yogurts have a bunch of sugar, and honest. Hi, Abby. They mostly have sugar. So the problem is that kind of defeats some of the benefits of the yogurt. So if you're gonna have yogurt, if you don't have a problem, get like an unsweetened organic yogurt. One of the other things that is something to consider is any type of an animal product, whether it be milk or beef. You definitely want to get them where they have not had antibiotics, because if they have, it's in their meat or in their milk, and that is going to also have an effect, like an antimicrobial effect on your gut. So another reason, if you're going to have animal products, and we do, we in moderation, that's the thing you want to actually kind of splurge on. You want to get quality and grass-fed organic, just so that you have healthy meat, healthy milk, different things that are coming from healthy animals that were raised humanely. That's pretty important. So another thing that's super important is reducing starch and sugar in your diet and increasing fiber. So one thing that some people don't think about is that microbes eat. They all have their own kind of diet. And what's interesting is that most of the bacteria that we need more of, what they eat is fiber. And guess what? Most Americans don't eat very much fiber. So if we don't bring the fiber in to feed them, they're not going to grow and replenish, and we're not going to have a good population of those particular types of bacteria. You know what else? Most people know what Candida is, right? It's a yeast that tends to become a little too proliferant, especially when people have had antibiotic treatments, and it can be a problem. But guess what it loves? Sugar. It loves sugar. It thrives on the sugar. So like when you think of a typical American diet, we're gonna have to reevaluate that a little bit, because I like to call like our microbiome our little buddies. We want to feed the right ones, right? And so we want to starve off some of the ones we have too much of. And so that's one thing, is really making a concerted and strategic effort to reduce sugar and starch and increase healthy fiber in our diet. And then I always get asked about probiotics. That is a whole topic in itself. That study I mentioned, it does talk about certain probiotics that can be helpful. And so you can definitely check that out in the comments later. But the thing with that is it kind of depends on your unique microbiome and what you need. Because probiotics actually, they don't reseed your gut the way most people think. They actually are more like putting boots on the ground to try and push back certain ones that are causing too much of a problem. And so we have techniques here in our wellness program to figure out which ones are best for certain people. But if you don't have a practitioner that does that, one probiotic that does test a lot very often with people is what's called lactic acid yeast. It is naturally occurring in the gut, and it's also a natural antagonist to Candida. And in a lot of instances, overgrowth of Candida is a problem. And so lactic acid yeast has been helpful. So one other thing we're going to talk about is the appendix. So I'm going to try and keep it short and sweet. Don't want to take up too much of your time this Thursday evening, but most people think the appendix is vestigial still. This is another thing that they told us forever. We don't need it. Not true. It is actually an important part of our immune system. And so it actually helps. What they're finding is that it's like a little sac, and it's between the large and small intestine. And it's rich with microbes. And what they found is that those microbes are the naturally occurring microbes for our gut. And so Dr. William Parker, who's with the Duke University Medical Center, had said, once the bowel contents have left the body, the good bacteria hidden away in the appendix can emerge and repopulate the lining of the intestine before more harmful bacteria can take up residence. And so we actually do have a backup mechanism to get those microbes that maybe we had killed off with antibiotics. Hi Polly. Prebiotics. That is like fiber. That's like what the microbes eat. So you can take a prebiotic, like prebiotic inulin. It's basically fiber that certain microbes eat. But one of the things we really need to focus on is just getting more fiber in our diet. Shifting the way that we strategically put our diets together, making sure that we have more fiber in general. Most really good probiotics will have a prebiotic in it, and we have stuff like that here. But yeah, that's the prebiotics, or that basically their food. So anyway, that concludes what we're going to talk about tonight. We love all of you. We hope you're staying well and healthy. I will put some references in the comment section. If anybody the video on how digestion works from start to finish, comparing it to a dysfunctional digestion, I'd be more than happy to post that too. Just let us know. If you have any questions, just give me a wave. All right, have a good one. Bye.